us. I know everybody's flowing in little bits at a time. We're really excited to see you all. Some of you we recognize, most of you are new to the program, which is fantastic. I'm so excited, and we have an incredible group of facilitators and mentors and expert speakers to support you all today and over the journey of the 10 weeks as we all work to support each other and advance your digital sales and marketing. I'm Caroline Cummings. I am the CEO of RAIN. We are a nonprofit based in Oregon. We have many entrepreneurs from Oregon. We have several from Washington, and we have others from all over the country and the globe. So I want to welcome everyone. We also have several folks on our team who speak many languages. So if there's a preferred language that you prefer to speak, please reach out to Ani. Ani can raise her hand and let you know. She's the accelerator director. Hopefully all of you have been receiving emails from her. But we had over 200 entrepreneurs from all over sign up for this program, and many of you are showing up today, which is fantastic. I'm going to quickly share my screen and walk through a couple announcements, and then I'm going to hand it over to Ani, and then we're going to jump right into the exciting program that we have in store for you today. Today's session is all about mastering your message. All of these sessions will be recorded. We will not be recording the breakout rooms, so feel free if there's any sort of confidential information or things that you would like to talk about that maybe they're better suited in the breakout room, or if you want to reach out to one of us, the facilitators, the mentors, which you're going to get to meet momentarily, and want to talk offline about that, we want to make sure you're getting the most out of this session. The recordings will also be posted to our YouTube channel and also to our Facebook, which you'll all get links to. Here's the agenda for the course. We're going to do this welcoming part right now. We're going to give an overview of the program, talk about the featured speakers. We're going to go into breakout sessions. There's going to be opportunity for questions and answers. And then we're going to talk about what's next. And then after the session ends, we'll do some informal networking for those who want to hang around. Many of us will be here to support you in that. So who is RAIN? As I mentioned, we're a nonprofit based in Oregon. However, we serve global communities, and what we do is we get invited into communities and we partner with them to do three things. One, catalyze entrepreneurial economies. Two, connect entrepreneurs to resources, including overlooked entrepreneurs. And lastly, contribute to the creation of prosperous economies. And I'd be remiss if I did not pause and say a huge thank you to the U.S. Economic Development Administration. It's because of them that we're able to offer this program 100% free to you. Not only free, but you'll hear later on in the program about our Raindrops program that you all qualify for, that Anna on our team is leading, and that will provide expert advising to those of you who meet the qualifications. So I just wanted to give a big shout out and thank you to the federal government for funding this program and many others that we're doing at RAIN. I also want to thank all the cities, the counties that we're currently working in who have invited us, and also the U.S. Department of Agriculture has been funding our work for many, many years. They love rural entrepreneurial development. And then there's some nonprofits and foundations as well. So big shout out to them. And then I'm very excited to hand this over to Ani Ross. She is an entrepreneur herself. She has been involved as a mentor with RAIN over the years, but she's officially on our team as the accelerator director. And I'm going to hand it over to her. She's going to continue to lead the program. But thank you all for being here today. We're excited to support you over the coming weeks.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. So Caroline, if you can stop sharing my screen, then I can move these ones or whatever you want to do. All right. So first of all, I want to take the time to appreciate, for you guys to appreciate that you are here and that this says a lot about your commitment to your business. We have a great program coming up, just a few things. Please remain muted, and if you need to ask a question, raise your hand. When the moment of Q&A comes, we're gonna be taking note of all of that, whatever questions we are not. I need everybody to please mute themselves. If you guys have any questions, we are always going to be taking notes of those on the chat. And if we're not able to answer them throughout the main session, we are going to be able to do that on mentor hours. So this is an accelerator to increase your sales and your abilities to make sales. But please do not use this as a space to push your business onto others. This is an educational program, and we just want you to keep that in mind. Whatever you are going to share with us and with anybody in this cohort, make sure that it's going to help everybody and that it's something that is going to help us improve our ability and our skills in regards to our digital and marketing strategy. We will ask you to rename yourself. Right now, not all of you know your cohort number, and that's okay. Do not panic. We'll figure that out. We have mentors and facilitators that are going to be helping us out with all of that. What I do want to ask you is to rename yourself as your personal name and then your business name. That's what we're going to do for now. We are going to have a breakout session later today, but please don't panic about those technicalities because that's why we have Nate here with us. This is the entire RAIN team. I'm not going to name all of us, but we have grown a lot in this past year. And we have VCs and EICs who are always in the community, igniting all of those events to get you guys excited about entrepreneurship. And we have our cohort leads over here. So I'm not going to go over them either. You guys are going to have some time to get to know them on the breakout session. I just wanted to let you know every cohort has a RAIN team member and a professional in digital marketing. So the idea is to create a very strong lead so you guys have somebody to ask questions directly to and not get so diluted in the amount of people that we have here today and in the upcoming sessions. As always, if you guys have any questions or any concerns, reach out to me. I will do my best to answer your questions. And when you are allocated to your cohort, if you have any issues with the people that you're with in that cohort, just let me know. No judgment. We will make the change. All right. Now, we have a lot of speakers coming up. Some of them are faces that you know if you have been in the program before. Some of them are new to us. We are keeping the keynote speaker a mystery until we can talk a little bit more about it. But we are very excited to have this amazing group of professionals to share their knowledge with you. This is the snapshot of the program. We have expert speakers coming to each one of these sessions. And today we're going to talk about mastering your message. Now, next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about your customer itself. And, you know, we're going to be doing this progression in which you're able to address different areas of your marketing strategy and leave this program with a vision of what you need to do in order to improve that area. Generally, during the week, what we do is we have our main session on Wednesday mornings from 9 till 10:30 a.m. The recording will be available by Friday in the morning. So if you miss a session, you're going to be able to catch up. We have a speaker mentor hour within a week of their session. And we also have open mentor hours with the mentors that are leading the cohorts. So there are plenty of opportunities for you guys to come in and ask questions, to be able to process all of the information that you receive. And we're going to talk about the requirements to graduate and receive your certificate of completion here in a bit. But I just want you to know you don't have to go to every single thing, but it will benefit you if you do, because this is going to allow you to really, you know, sink in all of that information. So we have a Facebook private group, and this is a place where we essentially share, you know, the slides, the content, where we have a conversation. You guys can, you know, share with everybody what you're thinking about doing and then get some feedback and those kind of things. So I do encourage you to join the group. And you will see that there are already some people there. That is because they are RAINmakers from our previous program. And we just thought that this would be a really good way to get all of these small businesses connected and continue that conversation even beyond the accelerator. So you will get a certificate of completion. What you need to do is attend 8 of the 10 sessions. We know that life happens, that it's possible that you're not able to attend those 8 sessions. So if you miss it, please watch the recording and send me 3 takeaways from that session. That's it. And these 3 takeaways can just be a sentence per takeaway. It doesn't have to be anything elaborate. We do ask you to attend at least 5 of the mentor hours. You're going to have around 10, actually more than 10 possibilities of being able to go to a mentor hour, about 15 of them. So, you know, it's just a third of all the mentor hours that we have. So please try your best to do that. There are going to be different times that these are because it depends on the availability of speakers and mentors as well. We are not having any homework for this program. We heard you loud and clear on the previous one. So we just created a marketing framework, and Robert is going to talk about it in a little bit, instead of homework. So you're going to be able to fill this out throughout the 10 weeks that we are going to be here. It's very simple, and it's something that you can start answering as we go through each session. Then you will submit that on week 9. I did put a link over here, but we will talk about this as we approach that moment. Most importantly, please just show up, have fun, and let's make it rain. We have a lot of surprises for you on this program. You know, we do have a pitch competition at the end of the program, and those include prizes. But throughout the program and on each session, we're going to be raffling one-on-one time with digital marketing professionals. And these are going to be a lot of the times the speakers that you are going to be seeing there that are not necessarily part of the Raindrops program that Caroline mentioned earlier. So this is going to be a really good opportunity for you guys to work on specifics for your business and just move forward.
Ani, just a quick, there's a lot of questions about how to do the renaming. Can you just walk us through that?
Yes, actually, I think, oh, where did that go? Give me 1 second. So right over here. All right, so you're gonna go to participants. If you click on the bottom of your Zoom window, you're gonna see the participants tab, and then it's gonna show up on your side. You're gonna find your name and you click on more, rename, and then you just type your new name over there. Okay. Any more questions? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen over here. All right, well, if questions come up throughout time, right now that I'm not talking, I am gonna be taking note of the chat. And I want to pass this to Caroline so she can introduce our Deputy Director, Robert Killen, who is also our guest speaker for the day.
Great. Thank you, Ani. Thanks for kicking it off with such great energy. And I do know there's some other questions coming up about cohort numbers. And Ani, can you remind everybody about the cohort numbers?
Yes. So, you know, honestly, this is more of like a facilitator and mentor situation at this point. So I just want to invite mentors and facilitators to go through the list. I will do it as well. And just if you have a name that you have on your list of cohort members, just feel free to rename themselves and put the cohort number in the front.
Hey, Ani,
Yes.
we have a Google Doc that we could share that just has last names, first names, and cohort numbers. I could put that in the chat in a moment. Folks can.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, great, we'll do that.
Great. Thank you, guys. Okay, so I don't want to keep any more before we have this incredible speaker joining us today. Some of you may know Robert Killen from his previous role as the director of the Small Business Development Center here down in Lane County in Oregon. But we're actually thrilled to have him join our team as our deputy director. And what that means is he's helping make sure our programs like this are elevated, that everybody's getting the support that they need. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell you more about his background. However, what I want to say about Robert is there are compassionate people in the world, and then there are compassionate people in the world. And Robert is so deeply compassionate and cares about entrepreneurs. He's dedicated his entire life to really learning about businesses and how to support them. He has a background in finance and marketing, and he's going to tell you more about that. So I'm going to hand it over to Robert so that he can take us through an incredible program today. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. It is such an honor to be here. I can't believe it's actually today is the first month anniversary of my time here at RAIN. It feels like a whole 3 days have gone by, but it's been a month now. And as Caroline mentioned, I was most recently at the SBDC, loved that work, presumed that I would retire with SBDCs. I loved it that much. Of course, I presumed prior to that I would retire with Chambers of Commerce, which where I spent 5 years prior to that. But every once in a while, something perfecter comes along, and this opportunity to support RAIN, to be a part of this team as we are looking to expand. I don't know that we've mentioned that yet, expand even globally. It's just a very exciting time for the organization. And when I think about, whenever I'm doing something, I'm always thinking about what does it mean to be best in the world, best in the country, just best, top shelf with what you're doing. And I feel like RAIN's model, RAIN's approach is truly a best of approach. So again, it's just an honor to be here. A little bit more about me. The first decade of my professional life, I was a fine artist and then a designer and really focused on brand images. Then I moved into finance and banking, and we can talk about that transition another time. Spent 7-8 years doing commercial lending and branch management. Ran a couple of nonprofits, and then ended up in the chamber and SBDC space. Caroline mentioned that I have spent my life really trying to focus on how to make businesses better, even when I was an employee. And it took me about 2 decades before I recognized where that came from. And I'm going to share that story since we actually are even a little ahead of schedule already, which is awesome, gives us more time to talk. But when I was a kid, I was about 10 years old. And I remember sitting in the back of my parents' old green Mercedes, which is beat up old car, but I loved it. And we were in a parking lot in Sacramento, and it was hot. It was middle of the summer. And I was a Portland kid, but we were down in Sacramento because my dad, who had run his own business for almost 20 years, about a year earlier, maybe a little bit more, he began to have problems with his cash flow. And he didn't know how to solve it. He didn't know what solutions were out there. He didn't know who to go to. He got one piece of advice from somebody, which was, you should go out and get investors, and they're going to give you money. And so he did that. He got investors, and yeah, they gave him money. And then within short order, they were controlling his work. They made it so difficult for him to actually operate and run his own business that we were in Sacramento, where he was having a heart to heart with that investor group to figure out whether or not he would continue in his own business. And as a 10-year-old kid, all I knew is that for the past year, my dad had been miserable. And I knew that this meeting was about getting him out of that situation. And so, I impatiently waited for him to come walking out. And when he opened the door, thankfully, it was an empty parking lot. I yelled out the window, "So Dad, did you lose your job?" Because all I wanted for him was to be happy, right? That actually didn't sit with me at the time for long, but it was, 15, 20 years later, as I realized, especially when I was a banker, I realized I had this outsized empathy for the small business owner that I had to sit down and figure out where that came from. And that moment kept coming to me. I realized that I do have outsized empathy and interest in helping small business owners avoid failure, avoid that type of mistake. And that has driven a lot of my work, especially for the past 2 decades. And again, it's an honor to be here where I get to continue that on a bigger stage. So again, thrilled to be here. So let's go ahead and jump into my presentation for today. Hopefully that's the right one. Before I jump into the master your message, I just want to talk very briefly about the marketing framework. And I will go ahead and share. Let me pull this up. I'm going to share in the chat a PDF so all of you can pull this up for yourself. A PDF of this framework. Okay, that should be there for you now. Let me know if anybody has any problems opening that. We also have a Google version we could get you if you need it. But the framework is, the idea is, my theme around business supports that is, it's grown over the years, is clarity. I remember another story. I remember I was working for a gentleman in the 90s, and these two guys came into the shop. I was a designer at the time. They came into the shop. They looked like mafia. Turns out they were bankers, and I can say that because I became a banker. But they walked through the shop, didn't crack a smile, dressed, all in dark suits. They walked into the office, didn't seem to say a thing. I saw my boss hand a yellow envelope to them, big manila envelope, and then they turned around and walked out. I was curious. I went to the boss and I said, "What was that? Who are those guys?" He said, "Well, those are the bankers. They needed to see our financial statements." Being curious, I said, "Well, what do our financial statements tell us? That's really interesting." And I can't believe that he said this, but I promise this is an exact quote. He said, "I don't want to know what those things say." And I was really taken aback. But after thinking about it and supporting businesses over the following years, I came to realize that in that moment, what he was saying was, he has a story in his head about his business. He doesn't want that story to be interrupted with anything that might challenge it, including the real numbers, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I just saw in the chat that River Powers didn't see a PDF come up. Did people get the PDF?
It. Nobody's
Okay.
seeing it, huh?
Okay.
I'll
If somebody,
upload
I got it.
yeah. Okay. So Ani, if you could upload that again, that'd be great. So what I've come to learn, and especially beginning when I became a banker, is that clarity is not something that we embrace as humans. It's something that we have to teach ourselves to get comfortable with. The marketing framework is a way to get as clear as possible and concise as possible around the essential pieces of your marketing strategy. And today we're beginning with the message, but over the course of the coming 10 weeks, hopefully you'll have an opportunity to get clear about each of these pieces. And I'll go to the next one. Each of these pieces, the framework actually looks like this, where we've got a question associated with each of these concepts and some extra questions just to help you identify how do you want to fill out this, this small box. The reason it is small is to force everyone to get as clear and concise as possible. One of my favorite quotes, I don't remember it exactly, but the favorite quote came from French physicist Pascal. He apologized for the length of his letter because he didn't have time to make it shorter. In order to be concise, we have to put in some work, and that's what this document is all about. So hopefully that will help you. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into the actual presentation. Master your message. The message that I'm going to help you craft today is not your final marketing message. I want to be really clear about that. The message will be your foundational message. The purpose of this foundational message is to act as the seed from which all of your marketing messages, your slogans, your taglines, your images, all of those should come from this foundational message. In corporate speak, we could actually call this a mission statement, but I'm not going to use that language. We're just going to call it your foundational message. And it's made of 3 different pieces. what we're going to be talking about today, I'm going to talk a little bit more about mission clarity, and then we're going to go into the 3 pieces of your message, which is the problem we're solving, the solution, the unique value proposition, and then we'll put it all together as a foundational message. And do the work, because when we go into the breakouts, we're going to ask you to introduce yourself utilizing this message for 2 reasons. One, just to instill this concept, and also for clarity and for brevity, because to introduce us in breakouts, we need that to go quickly. So hopefully that'll work for you. So let's start with mission clarity. I already kind of described the importance of it, but I want to take a look at bias, and especially maker's bias, and why startups fail. All of this relates to the importance of clarity for you as business owners. And I want to acknowledge, you might be wondering, well, this doesn't sound like digital marketing, right? And I agree. Every marketing process, digital or otherwise, requires a few things, and it has to start with a commitment to clarity about your message and this foundational process. So I'm probably the only one here that's not going to be focused solely on the digital arena. My job is to give you this foundation so that everything that comes after has a strong foundation, has a strong base. So hopefully that's okay with everyone. Let me go ahead and pull this. Whoops. Oops. I'm sorry. I just messed that up. Are you still seeing that? No, you're not. My apologies. I moved it and it disappeared. So let me go there. And need to change this up for just a second. Okay. Are we back?
Not seeing your screen. There it is. It's up now.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right, so I'm going to talk about bias and why startups fail as the importance for clarity. So one of my favorite images here, and you can reach out to me privately to get a copy of this or a link to it, is the Cognitive Bias Codex. This is 181 ways that our brains lie to us to make us feel good about ourselves and our thoughts and our decisions. This is natural. It's not a failing. It's how humans sort of process the world. Oh shoot, I thought I had another. Okay. So before I move on, one of my slides disappeared. So there is a concept which I call maker's bias. And that's not actually on the codex, but what maker's bias is, it's basically the baby bias of parents. You know, every parent believes that their child is beautiful. And we can all, you know, some people will look at all babies and say they're all beautiful, but we don't go around and ask, you know, we don't take our babies out into the world and ask other people if they're not beautiful. It's just not something we do. But founders are often much the same. When we build a business, we can only see the value and the beauty of our idea. It can be really hard for us to acknowledge that the market might not see it that way. Back during the downturn, when I left banking for about a year, I developed a consulting company called Apex, and I had what I felt was a world-changing concept where I was bringing together the world of professional development, specifically around executive narrative and organizational storytelling, and professional networking. I was bringing them together for something really special. And I was having a great time holding meetings, but it was never really taking off like I expected. And eventually I sat down with several people to figure out why I wasn't getting more traction with this thing and asking for their feedback. And what I realized is that I had split my membership. I had people who were really excited about the professional development, and then another group that were really excited about networking, but very few of them actually wanted both. I thought I had solved the world's problems, but I never actually went out and validated it. And because of that, you know, I had not established clarity about what was going to work. The bias got in front of it. The bias kind of led me astray. So our job, clarity, is all about figuring that out. Now, one of the things, another thing about clarity, sort of evidence regarding clarity, is regarding the top 2 reasons startups fail. You often hear that startups fail because they run out of cash. I'm never a big fan of that, because usually if a business or even a startup runs out of cash, it's not the cash that's the problem. There's something else that caused them to run out of cash most of the time. But that's a different issue. It's the second one that's really important here. And it's almost equal, and in some cases even greater than running out of cash. Founders will identify that there was no market need for what they had to offer. Depending on the research, you'll see statistics from 35 to 45% of business owners realized too late that there was no market need for their business idea. If you think about what that's actually saying, these are business owners that officially got started. They put together their infrastructure. They may have hired people. They were going, only to later figure out nobody wanted what they were doing. It's a huge bias consideration. I can promise you every single one of them felt like they had an idea that all they needed to do is let the world know they were in existence. And then their only problem was going to be to figure out what to do with all the cash that was coming through the door. I mean, that is the human way, right? So we need to recognize that no matter how much we love our idea, well, here it is. No matter how much you want your idea to be true, desire doesn't make it so. Belief doesn't make it so. Ultimately, it's the market that gets to determine that. So I wanted to start by just recognizing that as humans, we are not typically designed to embrace clarity, to embrace objectivity. We are beings that very much want to just want everything to be good. And sometimes for businesses, we need to kind of put our biases aside and challenge those assumptions. And part of our work here will be to do that. So, okay, now we're getting into the meat of the messaging. The first part of the message that I'm going to ask you to create here today is the problem worth solving. And the question associated with that is, what problem will you solve? And why does it matter? And I'll go through a couple of different examples here. This can be difficult for certain businesses, depending on the type of business that you're putting together. For example, maybe you want to open up a food cart. Well, what problem are you solving doing that? Well, there is one. There's got to be one, because the only way you're successful in business is by solving a problem that people have. And if you can identify it, you can utilize that in your marketing. So that'll be something for us to work out. Here are some questions to consider while you're doing that. Are you solving a problem that's already acknowledged in the market? Are you solving homelessness in your region? Are you filling a niche that simply doesn't exist? Maybe you have a food cart and it's a very specific, it's Ethiopian and there's no Ethiopian food within 100 miles. So is it an acknowledged problem, or do you have to sell the problem? Are you having to communicate that this is a problem that people should be worried about? We see this a lot with nonprofits, where people are starting up nonprofits, and the founder of the nonprofit knows stuff that other people don't. I'll just make one up. So let's imagine somebody found a connection between the health of grubs in a community and ultimate environmental collapse. They could see it coming because what's going on with the health of grubs. I'm making this up. This isn't real. Well, let's imagine somebody comes out of a university, they've figured out this connection, and they are really set on letting the world know that things are dire because the grubs need to be saved. And so they create a nonprofit to educate and then help with the conditions that are hurting grub life. they're going to have to sell that problem in the market, right? Nobody knows that that's there. And it's it is a common challenge, again, especially in the nonprofit sector, but in the for-profit as well, where some of you have ideas that are so innovative, they're so new, they're so great, that the problem just isn't recognized yet. And you do have to sell it. It's got to be part of your marketing. And then is the problem itself, is it a problem of convenience, of need, ego? So when I'll give you a great example. One of my favorite examples is rocks, pet rocks, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. So got a couple of case studies to think about. First one, Betamax and VHS. Both of my examples come from my early teens. So if you're mid 50s or older, you probably recognize these. But the Betamax VHS story it's a fantastic case study where that sort of describes how objective value isn't really what you need to be concerned about, that the market ultimately determines whether something is of value. If you're not familiar, VHS tapes and Betamax came out at about the same time. They're both videotapes. VHS came out a little bit earlier. It was a little bit cheaper, but it was significantly poorer quality and shorter tapes. And there were a significant number of Betamax champions, people who really thought Betamax should take over, should win this space. And they spent several years competing with VHS, and they just couldn't break through. They just couldn't get there. And it's not that people that had VHS tape players were incredibly devoted or dedicated to their VHS. It's just habit. VHS won because it got there first, and it didn't matter how much Beta tried to make its case that it was an objectively better platform. It couldn't break through in the market, and eventually just went away. This is one of those areas where you may have a market, a problem that you are solving better than anybody else, but that doesn't mean that the market's going to embrace it. It doesn't mean it's not worth trying, but just know that ultimately the market determines. So there might be different ways to position your marketing statements, to position that problem, rather than just focusing on an objective truth. The objective truth might not get you there. And then, as I mentioned, one of my favorite case studies is the pet rock. And I actually wouldn't mind if people want to either put it in the chat or even unmute. If you have any guesses, and I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer here, what the heck the problem we're solving is that made the pet rock successful? Because the pet rock was very successful. I had one, and the founder of Pet Rocks was officially a millionaire. He ended up with over $1 million as a result of his very short-lived but legendary pet rock thing. So, what do you think? Anybody want to give a guess? What would you say that the problem that Pet Rocks solved were? There weren't any other silly products. Great companionship. I love it. You didn't have to care for it. That's one of my favorite. I think from a parent standpoint, parents were perfectly happy to buy their kids a pet rock because it didn't require any cleaning up, no feeding. I love it. Doesn't die. Yeah, you guys have it. I also think, yep, gag gifts. There's also a FOMO issue here, right? A fear of missing out. As they started to get some traction in a community, you didn't want your kid being the only kid that didn't have his or her pet rock. So even with something as silly as putting a rock in a box, you can sell that. So it makes it really interesting when we're thinking about marketing and do some business ideas, do they fail because there just isn't a place, like the founders are saying, there simply was no need for it in the market, or did they simply not figure out how to market it right? You know, was there another way to go about it? And I actually think that pet rocks are kind of proof that just about anything that has that you can find value for can be marketed well. But that doesn't mean you don't need to adapt it. The rock, you know, this pet rock didn't work just because it's a rock in a box. It worked because they put air holes in it so that it could breathe. It came with its book, the Karen training book, which was brilliant. I still remember that. I wish I still had this packaging. Of course, I was 10 when I got it. So, you know, it didn't just win because it was, you know, because it was silly. You know, they won the day because they put effort into that, and it was a brilliant product. So just a case study that I love talking about it. Love talking about that. So my final thought here regarding the problem we're solving is that whether a problem is worth solving is not determined by you. It's determined by the market. I'm going to give you a couple examples of some problems we're solving. So I have an independent LLC. The bulk of my work right now is with RAIN. The LLC is called The Needle. And for the purposes of this, I went ahead and put together this same foundational message. And the problem we're solving piece of it is that I solve the dangers and inefficiencies that stem from cloudy thinking related to organization. So that's the problem that I'm solving. Another example here. Some of you might be, you know, solving giant global problems. So a very simple one, it's not a simple business, but a simple problem. We're solving world hunger. Right? Nobody's going to disagree that that's a problem we're solving. Something a little bit more local, we are solving a criminal lack of donut shops in our community. So these are very different types of problems we're solving. What I'd like to do is just take 1 minute, and I'd like you to write down the problem that you feel you're solving with your business. And if you can't figure it out, if it's not exactly right, it just doesn't feel quite right, that's okay. Still write it down. If you don't write anything down, you won't have anything to test and figure out. So don't wait until it's perfect. Write something down, and then we'll come back and actually go into the next segment. So take 1 minute to write down your problem we're solving. So a great question in the chat. Should we be looking for only one problem? I feel you're solving many. So what's going to be important is being clear. It's okay if you're solving more, but you absolutely want to be crystal clear about what those problems are. I would argue that for marketing purposes, you're going to need to be specific. It's hard to do multiple messages within single marketing statements. So if you have multiple problems you're solving, down the road, you're probably looking at multiple marketing strategies, multiple marketing campaigns to communicate those. Excellent. Some of you are putting those in the chat. That's great. Didn't ask for that, but that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And you can always do that. So there's some excellent ones showing up. One-stop shop for beach gear. So I'll say that interesting, Bill, that one-stop shop for beach gear, that one-stop shop is actually a value proposition. The problem that you're solving may be a lack of one-stop shops, which you'd want to get clear about. So just recognizing the difference there. All right. So let's go ahead and keep going. Hopefully you've got that written down. Feel free to keep working on that. We're going to move into the next section of the foundational message, which is your solution. And this is the easiest part. This is what you all know. This is what you do, what you sell. So how will you solve the problem? And the idea with this section is to be fairly concise, and I'll tell you what that means here in a second. So, is your solution a product or a service? Is it place-based or online? Is it some combination of all of those? A couple examples. I'm actually pulling through from the first examples with the same business ideas. So with my business, The Needle, I'm solving the dangers and inefficiencies of cloudy thinking through consultation and training with organizational leaders. That is my solution. My solution is consultation and training with leaders. Okay, that very specific. I'm not saying anything more. I'm not talking about the unique value propositions. I'm just getting really clear about what my solution is. Regarding solving global hunger, in this case, this entity is solving global hunger by improving crop yields. Again, very specific. And finally, the criminal lack of donut shops is solved by opening a donut stand. So this one is as simple as it can get. What is your solution? So I want you to do the same thing we just did. Just take 1 minute to write down your solution. And I'm going to follow up on a chat here. Okay, apparently my screen is not sharing as expected. Is that not full size, Carol?
It's full, but we can still see like the top URL long bar. It's not like the full screen.
Yeah, I appreciate that. In my case, because I'm working in a different space with only one screen, I wanted to be able to see everything else, and so I'm kind of stuck with that.
No worries.
Actually, yeah. Okay, what do we have coming in? So mark and identify and secure road plates. Interesting. Providing a good street hot dog. Excellent. Okay. All right. Okay, so that's probably long enough for the solution. So let's go into what is often the toughest part, which is the unique value proposition. Unique value proposition is simply, answering the question, why would somebody come to you as opposed to your competition, as opposed to anyone else? Why will somebody choose your solution? I love this definition. So I've actually credited where I found this, but a unique value proposition is the core benefit or solution that differentiates your product or service from the competition and positions it as the best possible option on the market. And every new business needs to figure this out, because just being another option in a marketplace doesn't win. That's not how it works. You have to be able to position yourself as in some way better than the competition, or at least more convenient, whatever that may be. So I also want to point out that there is always competition. And some of you might say, well, no, nobody's doing what I do. Let's give you an example. So let's look at Oregon Axe. So Oregon Axe is a place where you drink beer and maybe other things, I'm not certain, and then throw axes. Sounds dangerous, but it's perfectly Viking. I mean, it's awesome experience. Oregon Axe opened up in Springfield. No other axe throwing for 200 miles in any direction. They could easily say, I don't have any competition. Nobody is doing what I do. But here's the flaw in that thinking. Nobody is sitting around not spending their money waiting for an axe throwing bar to show up. They're spending their money. So even if you feel that your product or solution, your nonprofit, your whatever your idea is truly unique, that nobody does anything like it, the dollars that you are going to be asking them to spend on your product or service, on your solution, those dollars are being spent already. So there is competition for the dollars being spent, if nothing else. So there is always competition, and you need to understand what are you displacing in the market? What market share are you grabbing? Especially, it might even be harder if you can't think of the competition. It might be harder to figure out the strategy, because you have to figure out what money, what activity you're shouldering in on, right? So there's always competition. Never allow yourself to get complacent about that. I love I love this particular Venn diagram. It's just so clear. There are these three sections: what your customer needs and cares about, what your competition does really well, and what you do really well. You want to focus on the things that you do really well, that your customer needs and cares about, that is outside of the realm of your competition and what they're doing well. So you can only do that if you get clear about who your competition is, and clear about what you do really well. And this is another area where being clear and honest, not allowing your biases to inform that too heavily, is really important, because you may think you do something really well, and that just might not be objectively true. I remember a moment when I was sitting in a room with a bunch of different bankers. And this was a part of a professional association of bankers in Bend 12 years ago, 15 years ago. There were 13 banks represented in the room. And I had this epiphany that if I were to hand out a piece of paper and say, okay, privately, I just want you to write down what makes your bank better than every other bank. I promise you that every single answer from everyone in the room would have said some version of, we provide a superior customer experience. Everyone would have said exactly the same thing. So when you're thinking about your unique value proposition and what you do really well, recognize that it might not be the first thing that comes to mind, because our biases are going to tell us things that simply are not objectively true. So do think hard about what makes your offering truly special. And again, another area not to get complacent. So here are a couple examples from big companies, but these are ones that I just love. These are obviously slogans as well. And so it's one way of taking their foundational message and converting some portion of it, in this case, their unique value proposition, into a slogan. So I love that example as well. FedEx, when it absolutely positively needs to be there overnight. I don't know, UPS might be able to say they do exactly the same thing, but FedEx said it. You know, FedEx is the one that's actually claimed that this is their unique value proposition. So they're going to get props for that. They're going to get business as a result of that. When iPod first came out, the idea that you could put 1,000 songs in your pocket was simply unreal. So again, a brilliant one. And then my favorite from when I was a kid was melts in your mouth, not in your hands. I loved that so much when I was a kid. When I was first thinking about what I was going to do long-term in my life, I wanted to write film scores, music for film. I was a big fan of John Williams and Henry Mancini. And so I thought a lot of myself, and I think I was a 12-year-old kid, and I wrote this jingle with melts in your mouth, not in your hands, and I sent it off to M&M's, and guess what? I never heard back. But anyway, I gave it a try. So I love those examples. And then related to these three businesses we were already working on. So again, the needle, my unique value proposition, providing or doing my solution is consultation with organizational leaders, consultation and training for organizational leaders. The unique value proposition associated with that is that I focus on the transformative combination of bias training, data integration, and organizational storytelling. So, and I believe that's truly unique for our fictional company that's working on solving world hunger through increased crop yields. They're going to do that through breakthrough nanotechnologies. And our hot dog stand is going to be dropping hot and fresh donuts directly off the conveyor and into your car. All right, so it's going to take one more minute here. I think we're going to be just perfect on time. Take one more minute to write a unique value proposition associated with yours. And again, if you're not quite sure what it is, that's okay. Write something, make a guess. Your best guess is better than writing nothing at all, because at least then you have something to work on. So we'll give you one more minute, and then I will finish up, and we'll go into breakout rooms here in just a few.
Thank you, Robert. While you guys work on that, we have a mystery Zoom user over here, and I would appreciate it if you unmute yourself and tell me your name so we can assign your cohort.
Ani, what does it say on the display?
It just says Zoom user.
Oh, okay.
So I think if I'm going to give you a few minutes, if we do not know, then I think I'm going to have to drop it out because I don't know who it is.
I just asked them to unmute.
And I did ask already on the chat, but I haven't gotten a response.
Okay.
Is that you? Okay, that's a person.
Okay.
Can you tell me your name so I can rename you?
Yeah, it's Dave.
Oh, okay. So you're connected in 2 devices?
The what?
Are you connected in 2 devices?
I don't think so.
Okay, so
What's his last name?
Mitchell.
Mitchell. Okay.
no, but he's already renamed, so I don't
Yeah.
think it's him.
Ani, let's talk in the chat.
I think
We
we're
can
good to
work
go.
on it.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave.
Yep.
All right, so that is our minute. And I am just looking here at I missed some of the chat as we were working on that issue. Unique dogs, great prices. Yeah, you know what? A pricing can actually be a unique value proposition. You got to be really careful with that, because if you're competing on price alone, it can be a quick or slow road to a business that's not very fun. So you just got to be really careful about that. Love Pallavi, heard what she said here: sturdy, elegant, responsibly produced single-use dishes. And Pallavi, congratulations on your excellent pitch that I watched a week or so ago. You did a beautiful job. We're dying to please you, John. Grateful graphics, beautiful. Love that. All right, so let's put this all together as a foundational message. So you put this together by simply creating a single sentence that starts with your problem we're solving and then adds in the solution and unique value proposition. And so here are a couple. This is an example. So I've split out our 3 examples here to put them all together. So the example of my business, The Needle. I solve the dangers and inefficiencies that stem from cloudy thinking through consultation and training with organizational leaders, focusing on the transformative combination of bias training, data analysis, and organizational storytelling. That's a little long-winded. It's as long as you would ever want this to be, but I feel like it's clear. I think it's pretty clear. A much shorter one: we're solving world hunger by improving crop yields through breakthrough nanotechnologies. And maybe they don't want to say anything more about those breakthrough technologies, but it's clear what they're doing. And then finally, we are solving a criminal lack of donut shops in our community by opening a donut stand that drops hot and fresh donuts directly off the conveyor and into your car. So just 3 different examples. And my goal for each of you is to come up with something equally concise, equally clear. You might not be all the way there yet, but for our purposes, we want to give it a try in our breakout session. So if you want to introduce yourself, you'll introduce yourself just like that. Hi, I'm Robert Killen, and my business is The Needle. I solve, and then I run through that message. So that's what we're going to be doing in the breakouts. And I will hand it over to Ani to lead us in that.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, everybody. So we did the awesome job of renaming most of you. Nate, you can go ahead and put everybody on breakout rooms. And if we have any outliers, then you can just allocate them to whichever you want to see is best.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We have about 150 people on the call, so I appreciate all the patience as we've gotten folks assigned. And if there are ever issues, reach out to me kind of in the chat and we'll get you all sorted out. But looks like we got pretty much everybody ready to go. So you should be reassigned automatically to a breakout room. And I'll give you a little warning right before we come back as a full session. As a reminder, these breakout rooms aren't recorded. Yeah.
Hey, I just want to let folks know who haven't ever gone into a Zoom breakout room before, this screen will go away. You'll see something like you're seeing now, and then you'll move in. So I didn't want anyone to panic if it looked like you got kicked out. You're not getting kicked out. You're just getting put into a breakout session. So thank you.
And for purposes of monitoring how quickly we're going, because we're going to have to go fast. How long is the breakout session? Is it going to be 20? 20.
Yes, we can do 20 minutes, even
Perfect.
22, but Nate, no, let's just do 20 because of that. That lasts a little bit before we come back into the main session. Actually, no, excuse me. We have not done Q&A. So let's do 15 minutes so we leave some time for questions, and that way everybody gets their fix.
All right. So if we're doing 15, then be really diligent about these intros. Just share them, and hopefully there will be a little bit of time at the end of your breakout to have some conversation about them.
All right. I'll see everybody at 10:18. We'll bring everybody back. All right. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I was just wondering if we could begin the Q&A session. And then at 10:25, we'll jump into those 3 last slides to talk to you guys about what's next. And then if we have more questions, we can stay in a little bit. Robert will host a mentor hour. So if you guys have more questions, you're going to have that opportunity to be able to ask him questions. You can even bounce off ideas about your message and how to refine it. That's the idea of mentor hours, right? That you apply it, you see, you look for feedback, and then you go back and you continue to work on it. So hopefully this tool that we created with the framework facilitates all of that process of digesting all the information. We know it's a lot for, each one of the sessions. Oh, some people were unable to present. Oh, guys, well, let's try mentors and facilitators on next week's session. Try to give priority to the people that didn't have a chance to talk today in the breakout session. So that way everybody gets their time and their possibility of sharing what they need.
Ani,
So
when is the mentor hour? Sorry, someone's asking that.
So Robert, he mentioned that he could host it on Monday. Robert, is he still
3
here?
o'clock. I'm here. 3 o'clock on Monday.
I keep asking for you.
Yep. I am here.
All right. So when can you host your mentor hour, Robert?
3 o'clock Pacific.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and we'll send out a link.
This upcoming Monday. And guys, I know it's going to be the next week. We're going to have a lot of mentor hours because Robert is going to have his on Monday. Our speaker is going to have them on Thursday. And then we have one of our mentors that's going to host a Q&A on Wednesday. So you guys are going to have quite a few, opportunities to be able to do that.
And the mentor hours are open to anybody in the session who wants to show up. So we'll have to make certain we've got plenty of space. And I'll also put my contact in. If you have specific questions about what I delivered today, feel free to reach out to me via email. So I'll put my email in the chat here in just a second.
Thank you. So we have
I have another question,
Dante.
Connie.
What's that?
I have another question. Can folks who were unable to introduce their businesses, can they put in their business links and introduce themselves in the Facebook group?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, yes. Thank you for mentioning that. That's one of the first things we can do on the Facebook group. We'll do a post so all of you can introduce yourselves. And, you know, if you want to start following each other on social media and those kind of things, you can do that. And we do have some rules of engagement, but those are there. And, you know, hopefully we'll create a good ambience for all of us to share. Dante, you have your hand up. Ask away.
Hi. First of all, I love the framework of the RAIN marketing framework. So yeah, I really like that. I just wanted to know, is there a tool online that allows you to condense your or edit your words? One of the problems that was pointed out to me by Robert was that everything that I said was great, but it was too long. And I can edit, but I was just wondering, is it a way to cheat and do that? Like go to some website and put the text in and do it. So I'm just curious if you guys know of any cheats.
Why don't you, Dante, reach out to me and I'll be your cheat, okay?
Okay, thanks, Robert. I'll do that.
Makes me want to create an app for that. So thanks, Dante.
There's a really good book for writing that tightens everything up and teaches you how to sharpen it. And I'm looking for the book. If I can find it, I'll put in chat.
Perfect, Catherine.
Thank you. So, yeah, one of our professors on our MBA will have us read 10 pages and then say in 35 words what those 10 pages were about. Very challenging, but a very good practice.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Any other questions for Robert? And it's okay.
Must have been great.
If you guys think about any questions that you may have throughout the week, after we hang up and you're like, oh, I have a great question now when it's not the right time, feel free to email us and we'll make it happen.
I have a question before we go.
Mm-hmm.
This is Dave Mitchell. I didn't get a chance to speak. I had to walk away for a moment. Robert, after we do 10 weeks worth of soul searching work, sweating, doing all this work, I had a couple of restaurants in San Diego, and we had a competitor down the street who copied every single thing that we did. And they really diluted our message and our product because they didn't have to do any work. They just saw the lines and stole a copy of our menu. How do you prevent that, or can you?
I don't know that you can prevent it, Dave. What I think the focus would be to figure out what, from a unique value proposition standpoint, what can you do that they can't replicate? What is it that you bring that nobody else is going to be able to do? I would argue that right off the bat, authenticity is the first thing. Really, being first, being authentic, being you, it sort of highlights the fact that somebody else is copying what you're doing. But it's really hard to stop that. I don't know if anybody else has recommendations, but that's a tough spot.
I do. I've worked a lot in the restaurants back in the day, in my teens and 20s, and there were a lot of similar restaurants to things. Like I worked at a Planet Hollywood, and then the place next door that opened had the same kinds of food, but we won on our points of differentiation, which was excellent customer service. That is the one thing I bet you everybody on this call could go to 10 different restaurants, and if you can find one that provides over the top customer service, I'd be surprised. Mm-hmm. And I love all my restaurants that I go to, but I still think that there's so much above and beyond that can happen that has you stand out. And then to deliver that cultural message down to everyone in the organization, from the person who opens the door to who's in the back cooking to who's in the front serving, it's really important that excellence in customer service is delivered.
Thank you, Caroline. And I will add to that, Dave, a huge piece of my passion is organizational storytelling. If you can find those, you do the excellent work, and then you capture that excellence in stories and share those stories, they're not going to be able to replicate that because those are your stories. So, that's a way to lean into authenticity, do good work, capture it, and then market the heck out of it.
Gotcha.
Okay, so sorry guys to interrupt this part, but we need to close it out for people that need to disconnect at 10:30. And after we do these few slides and talk to you about the next things, then we can just stay in for a little longer to finish answering your questions. Next week, we have Jill Nelson, founder of Ruby.com and currently a private investor, to talk to you about discovering your customer. If you have been on RAINmaker before, you have seen Jill already. It's a similar session than the last time, but my invitation to you, if you have already done this, is you now have been able to have some time to see if your assumptions about your customer are real or not. So come over to this session with an open mind and see if there is a way that you can refine your customer profile and better reach them, okay? Because this can change over time. And as you get into your own business, then you will realize who is the one that's making the purchase, who is the one that's making that decision, and that can help you refine your strategy as well. And then now let's go to the next slide. Anna, where are you, Anna?
Here.
Yes. Anna is going to talk to you about the Raindrops program.
So hi, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful session and you're excited to what is coming up. And I have good news in terms of that. Like, besides all the great information and knowledge you're gonna get from this RAINmaker, we are gonna launch for you folks to be able to participate in Raindrops. Raindrops is like a broader program from RAINmaker, which enables you to get one-on-one digital marketing support from experts. So you learn things, you see your mentors here, and some of them are gonna be able to have time with you individually and help you to address your specific needs. In order to do that, I want you to think about your top needs in terms of digital marketing. And in the upcoming weeks, we're gonna let you know how it's gonna be that process of you getting those hours. So keep thinking about what you need, keep thinking about specific areas you wanna work, and we're gonna be here to support you and get farther in your business.
Awesome. So just to let you guys know, this is all free to you. RAIN is covering the cost of this thanks to that EDA grant. So just be mindful about this opportunity. And when the time comes for you to book your time, do it sooner than later, because at some point funds can run out. So if you want to get in first, get on that and be able to potentially have a little bit more time of one-on-one, then the sooner you do that, the more chances you have of being able to really develop an area of your digital marketing strategy. And if you have any questions about this, please reach out to Anna. And there is her email address, but either way, we're also going to be sharing with you more information about that in the coming days. So for those of you that need to leave, thank you so much for staying a little bit over. We really appreciate your time here, and we hope that you're stoked about this program. We did not make the raffle today, but here's the thing. We are going to raffle one-on-one time with Robert, and you're going to have the opportunity to either refine your message or do a startup diagnosis. What we're going to do is we're going to go through everybody that attended here today, and we are going to do a random selection, and I will email you with that result. And we are going to be doing this throughout the entire program. So on each session, you're gonna have to have that opportunity to be able to earn some time with the speakers. Okay, so I hope this gets you guys excited for our upcoming sessions, and then we're gonna have surprises here and there. So if you guys have any more questions right now, feel free to unmute yourself and start asking away.
Can we enter the raffle more than one time?
Gotta love Mark. Hey, you don't get if you don't ask, right?